Yes, sir.
All righty.
Nice to meet you finally. Again, we met before.
This one's going to be a long one. Good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started with our work session. Review our agenda for Thursday. We have called to order. Roll call by Ms. Adams. Father Gregg will be here from St. Andrew's Church for the prayer. Pledge of Allegiance, Councilwoman Landry. Got that. Item number one, acceptance of agenda. We have some awards and presentations from the Calhoun County Food Network Annual Food Drive. Congratulations, Chief. And two proclamations and the Economic Development Small Business of the Year. Mr. Boone, thank you, sir. And City Manager report, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The parking lot expansion at Fire Station 2 is moving along pretty well now, and I think that will be complete pretty soon. Looking pretty good out there, Chief, I think. And then the PD Evidence parking lot construction, which was awarded to K&G, will commence soon, and that should finish by the end of the fiscal year in June. Annual street maintenance also awarded to K&G, and there'll be people out in the streets here pretty soon, and that should also be completed by June. Henry Jones Park Phase 1 construction, that should start in May and be completed by early fall. And let's see if I got the pedestrian walkway Phase 2, that's Transit Administration funded, is awarded to Wellcon Contracting, and that is expected to start in May and also be completed in June. And then I mentioned the cancer screenings already was awarded to Vincier, and we're starting the process of getting everybody prioritized for the screening. And let's see if I have anything else. No, but I'm sure I'll have some more for Thursday. So, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Thank you. We'll go to our agenda. Got a consent agenda by Councilwoman Jackson. I don't know if she's going to be back Thursday.
Her text said that she would not. She would, I think I took the text to mean that she would be out this week.
I don't think she said.
She's TDY.
Yeah, she's TDY.
The whole week. I can take it if.
Thank you, sir.
If you need me to.
Change that to Myers. All right, if she's not back. And we have our new business, item number 3, the presentation of the draft annual action plan staff report. Mr. McLaughlin, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is your opportunity to review the draft annual action plan, which serves as our funding application to HUD for the upcoming program year. The plan follows our standard template and provides proposed CDBG funding allocations developed based on your tentative direction from the first public hearing. Earlier this month, HUD announced that the city's official allocation amount of $249,752, which is in line with our original planning estimate of $250,000, so no significant adjustments had to be made. Of that amount, 85% is directed towards infrastructure and public facilities improvements, including fire hydrants in the Fry Town site area, enhancements to Henry Jones Legacy Park, and critical roof repairs and HVAC improvements at the Warrior Healing Center. The remaining 15% fully utilizes CDBG's cap for public services and supports programs that prevent homelessness, assist youth and families, and provide services to special needs populations. This allocation strategy is consistent with your policy direction and the city's consolidated plan goals. At this time, staff is seeking feedback and confirmation of direction so we can finalize the annual action plan for final consideration at your May 28th meeting. The plan's been posted to the city's website for a 30-day public comment period. Any feedback that we receive will be shared with you at that final public hearing, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Sir?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, the main points here was the Warrior Healing Center roof and HVAC project, and that's fully funded per their request on this plan. We were also able to fully fund the Fry Townsite fire safety improvements, which includes all 5 hydrants that were originally requested. United Way Boys and Girls Club and Echoing Hope Grant Ranch are pretty much in line with what was originally requested, and then that left a residual of just over $23,000 for Henry Jones Park. That's not a lot to do Henry Jones Park with, but maybe next year we can combine that with some more funding for a larger project. So I think that captures pretty much what you guys were talking about at the last meeting.
Comments from the dais? Yes, ma'am?
Didn't we have 88,000 left over from the first phase of Henry Jones?
Yeah, Matt can address that. The
There
residual
there
for the
is,
first phase.
but that funding is earmarked to support a T-Mobile grant for the pavilion, which was cut out of the construction bid. There were some ad alternates that we weren't able to accomplish,
Okay.
given the current budget. So we'll be looking to expand the scope, with that savings.
Okay, thank you.
Sir?
Man, I was under the understanding that whatever the residual was for Henry Jones Park was added to previous holdovers, and they're actually going to do something versus this being planned as a holdover into the next project year.
I think, Matt, we can make an adjustment if we need to on this year's project. Is that the case with these funds if we find we need to?
Like the
Mr.
vice
Mayor.
mayor had said, we had residual money from the past, and this is to be added to that, and we're going to move forward, right?
Mr. Councilmember Kilmurray, I think you were referring to the savings from the Montebello fire safety improvements, where we amended a prior year action plan to be put towards this first phase of Henry Jones Legacy Park. The total project budget from both program years, including the savings from that project, is $313,000.
Okay.
And the $88,000 that the vice mayor referenced is the difference between the construction bid for the base bid and the ad alternates and our total budget amount. So the $23,000 will be just added to that first and potentially additional work beyond the footprint of the Pocket Park, including landscape enhancements, particularly along the frontage of Fab Avenue, where we don't have landscape funding in our FTA-funded streetscape improvement project, to enhance the aesthetics of the property.
So these were the only 3 applicants for the capital portion of the CBDG funds, right? And so we fully funded Fry Township safety improvements, the Warrior Healing Center, and then whatever was left was Henry Jones. And so that Henry Jones leftover didn't come from, that came only from within the capital portion, right?
There was a 4th application from Catholic Community Services, which they
They withdrew
withdrew
that?
for a playground
Yeah.
at their transitional housing project.
Okay. And these were the only 3 that were left, right?
That's right, for
Okay,
public
thanks.
facilities.
Yeah, I think I understand.
Any more comments, questions? Thank you, sir.
Sure.
And for tonight, we have a couple presentations. Make sure I haven't missed anything. Then we'll call to the public and comments from the council. So tonight, we have a couple presentations. We have Mr. Scott Leach from the Torch Clean Energy.
Well, so we're doing the MOU.
Mr. McLaughlin will do an introduction and a
Okay.
back brief as to why we're here, and then Torch will make their presentation after that.
All right. We want to just push this forward.
Again,
Yeah.
okay, so this is a work session item for discussion and direction. No formal action is being requested at this time. We just want to bring to your attention an auction that's taking place next month on a large chunk of Arizona State Trust land in the southeast part of our city, east of Tribute specific plan area. The state is offering a 30-year commercial lease limited to solar generating facility, including battery energy storage as defined in the lease. The property encompasses just over 1,000
Battery Energy
acres of.
Storage System, BESS, is a facility that uses
Sorry.
electrochemical batteries to store
Siri.
electricity.
Okay,
In case anybody didn't know that.
okay. Now my Siri's going off. Because I said Siri.
Said her name. Yeah.
So the prospective developer is here today, Scott Leach, from Torch Clean Energy. They're doing business as San Rafael Energy for this project. The property historically has been used as rangeland under a grazing lease for herds of cattle. So it'll be transitioned under this lease towards a solar energy use facility. I want to point out that this project is at a scale the city has not previously reviewed or frankly contemplated. While the utility scale solar is permitted under our alternative energy systems provisions, the development code does not currently include a comprehensive set of standards tailored to projects of this size and complexity. In response, staff has been working with the developer to establish clear and predictable path forward on how this project would move through the city's development review process. Rather than pursuing a specific development code amendment or development agreement, we're proposing a project-specific approach that utilizes the city's existing site plan review authority. Under this framework, the project would proceed through a level 3 full-scale site plan review in accordance with the development code. Developer would identify and agree to a set of project conditions up front as part of the site plan submittal application. And these conditions would be incorporated into the approved site plan and enforced through all applicable permits, inspections, and approvals. This approach allows the city to address project-specific impacts while maintaining consistency with existing processes. This framework relies on the city's existing authority to condition site plan approval and does not require amendments to the development code or a separate development agreement. To support this approach, staff has drafted a memorandum of understanding with representatives from the developer. The MOU establishes a framework for coordination and outlines how project conditions will be developed, agreed upon, and incorporated into the site plan approval. Exhibit A includes a preliminary set of stipulated conditions focused on performance standards to maintain compatibility with surrounding uses, including site design, operational standards, environmental considerations, and decommissioning. These conditions are informed by standards applied to similar utility-scale solar projects in Cochise County and are intended to provide a consistent and regionally aligned starting point for review. Frankly, county staff is ahead of us in this regard and has done a great job analyzing these uses and coming up with strong conditions that protect and further the public interest. The city will benefit from the negotiations that have already taken place with this same developer and drafting off their conditions. That said, these conditions will continue to be refined through the site plan review process based on detailed analysis and coordination with agencies. I do want to be clear that the framework before you today does not constitute approval of the project. It defines how the project would be reviewed and conditioned through the city's standard processes. Given the location and scale of the project, coordination with outside agencies will be important, including Fort Huachuca, FAA, and Fish and Arizona Game and Fish Department. Scott Leach from Torch Energy will provide an overview of their company and the proposed project. Following the work session, staff will continue to coordinate with the developer and refine the MOU and Exhibit A conditions based on the council feedback. And with that, with your permission, I'll turn it over to Scott Leach from Torch Energy to run you through his presentation.
Yeah, and Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thanks, Matt. Just wanted to point out, as Matt mentioned, we're kind of piggybacking off the experience of the county because they've already engaged in these types of projects before. So they've done some work. Our code, as Matt mentioned, doesn't really contemplate a project like this. So we're trying to develop some sort of a hybrid process so that we can ensure that the development standards meet what we'd like to see with the community. We know there's been some discussion at the county and in their meetings with regards to the lease of the property. In this particular case, a lease makes a lot of sense for us. that doesn't necessarily generate as much property tax revenue, but given its location and the fact that the Tribute property is in between the city, currently developed city, and the site, a 30-year time frame makes sense because the state land department can then turn around and either lease or sell the property once the 30 years is over on this particular lease. So it makes sense in terms of what the state land department and what they're trying to achieve in terms of raising funds for the land trust. So overall, I think in the MOU, I think we'll be able to address that. We'll certainly share that with the council, but it was not a process that necessarily requires a city council vote for approval. We have nothing in our code to prevent, something like this from occurring. So, and just one other thing. Because of that, I wanted to make sure that was made public here at this particular meeting, so you guys and everybody would know exactly what's going on with this project, and it was made public. So.
Understood. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
I had a couple of questions before we move on to the torch part. So Chuck mentioned it a little bit, that since we're changing from agriculture to energy production, we're actually going to get a slight decrease in property tax.
Well, the city itself has a very low property tax rate, so for our revenue purposes, there's not much of a revenue impact to us. At the county level, for school districts, et cetera, there might be a little bit more. However, there is personal property tax on the actual improvements that are being made on the site, so there will be some property tax generated from the project. And Matt,
The equipment that's being added to the site will have significant value that will be assessed as centrally assessed value on the personal property that's installed. So there should be a significant increase in the revenue.
So we'll have a net increase
That's right.
overall.
yeah,
Over the grazing leases, for
yeah,
sure.
definitely that for sure.
Has there been any pushback from adjacent property owners, for example, Tribute or the companies, looking at that commercial area with the grocery stores to the east? Has there been any pushback?
Frankly, I haven't talked to Rick Kaufman since he retired from Castle and Cook, and they don't have a representative in Arizona. So there's been no dialogue with Castle and Cook with respect to this property.
You won't get none.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so just, is that already zoned mixed-use property since it's adjacent to potentially to the two residential areas?
It's actually zoned urban ranch, which is our placeholder zoning district until urbanization occurs. It allows essentially one dwelling unit per acre. So it's a rural kind of hobby farm type zoning district that allows alternative energy systems as a permitted use.
So is that going to change if, we're making a presumption they're going to win the bid, but is it going to change once they, do you have to change the zoning code?
The zoning does not have to change to allow what is being contemplated through this lease agreement.
Thanks. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. We'll call Mr. Leach. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for your time today. I have 6 presentations, so if anyone wants
Is this the same one we already have?
I think so.
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, we already have that.
we already.
Thank you.
to want another one?
Good.
Make this smaller. Okay. All right, we'll try it this way. Sincerely appreciate everyone's time here today. I'm here to give a presentation, but often I find the most collaborative part about these are question and answers. So if that's allowed today, I'm happy to do that. And please feel free to interrupt me. We can follow your lead. I work for Torch Clean Energy. We are a renewable energy developer. We work extensively across the entire country, but we have a very special focus here in Arizona. We've done 8 projects here in the state. 4 of them are located here in the county. We have a bunch of projects in Pima County, and we have one up in Mojave County. Our headquarters is located in Colorado, and we also have an office in Virginia. I guess to kind of introduce myself, I think it's important to state that we've been working in Cochise County since 2012. We started our very first project here. It's called the Red Horse Facility. It's up outside of Wilcox. And we've actually been working here ever since there. So we have a very extensive history working within Cochise County. This is the first time that we've worked here within the city. But I think what we try to do for every project is to come in, introduce the project, and then perform on what we say we're going to do before we go and try and do another project. So the history here in Cochise County is in 2014, we started the Red Horse Project. There was a second phase that we went to the county to ask for permission for. In 2019, we started another project that we call Winchester. That project, we went in front of the county in 2023. There's extensive technical studies that happen in these projects that I'll kind of outline. And we think it's very important that prior to coming and presenting to you all, that we have all of those ducks in a row so that there isn't kind of a red herring of a project here. It's really important to make sure the technical portion of these projects are finished because there's only so many places on the grid that you can put electrons onto the system that's financially feasible. And it's kind of an important concept because you can't just have a solar project anywhere around. You actually have to have it located in key places within the system. You can think of the electrical grid kind of as like a highway, right? Every time you want to get on, you have to build a new on-ramp. And if it's bumper-to-bumper traffic, then the utility actually requires you to build a second lane. And if that lane is 100 miles, well, you got to build a second lane that's 100 miles long. And so really the technical part about these projects is to figure out if you can build that on-ramp and then to make sure that there's enough room on the highway to fit your car. And that's ultimately what you do on the technical side. The San Rafael project has completed all of those studies, and I'll get to that in just a little bit. So we started here with the Red Horse project. That's 122 megawatts. We did another project up in Mojave County called Grayhawk. That's 55 megawatts. We've done a number of public power projects here in Arizona. Those public power projects are for Trico Electric. Trico is one of the 5 main members that make up Arizona G&T. Arizona G&T is the owner of the substation that we hope to interconnect to on the San Rafael project. It's an important point to make today is that this project is going to the nonprofit utility here in Arizona called Arizona G&T, and it's got 5 members. One of those members is Trico Electric. One is Sulphur Springs. Those are the 2 main co-ops here in the area. We've also done, we've done a project called Avion for Trico, a battery project for Trico, and then we did another battery and solar project for them. And kind of the most recent one that we've been doing, like I mentioned earlier, is the Winchester Energy Facility. That's located outside of Wilcox. It's just north of the 191 interchange. The very first phase of that project, we went to the county, asked for a conditional use approval in 2023. We then started construction on that project in the fall of 2025. And then earlier this year, we went and asked for the next phase of the Winchester project. We presented to the county, and that was approved, fully unanimously approval by the Planning and Zoning Committee a couple of weeks ago. That whole process over the past decade or so working in the county has built a series of conditions that we have developed with them. And some of those, it's not the same set of conditions again and again and again because there's new technology, there's new concerns within the community, and each step along the way, what we've done is to try to incorporate those concerns into the conditions that are imposed in the CUP. And all of those conditions have been incorporated into the MOU that is in front of you. Here's a picture of the Red Horse facility. Here is a picture of the Winchester 1 and 2 facility. Matt was able to come join us a couple weeks ago on a site visit, and we were able to kind of show exactly what these projects look like. We're happy to extend an invitation to the council if they wish to go out and take a look at what the projects look like in kind of person, and specifically what kind of the construction looks like in the middle of it. I'll pause there, and are there any questions about Torch or our background here in the county?
No, sir.
A solar and energy storage system is actually composed of a pretty simple design. It's a bunch of basically I-beams that are driven into the ground. On top of those I-beams, there's a single access tracking system. That tracking system slowly moves throughout the day. In the morning, it's facing east, and then very, very slowly throughout the day, it'll be facing west by the time the sun is going down, and then the project will actually stow back flat at night. There are some instances in like a wind event, the project actually goes up this way just for safety reasons, but then it'll be stowed back down. But for the most part, you see, if you ever drive past a solar project, it's kind of slightly tilted, basically facing the sun. It's a series of photovoltaic panels out there in the field, and that technology is the same technology we've had, since the 50s, basically, where you have the sun hitting the panel up here, an electron is excited, it goes on to the other side, that electron is collected into a collector system on a kind of a panel level, that goes through a DC collection system, so direct current, and then ultimately it makes its way into a inverter. The inverter converts the electricity from DC to AC. That's then collected internally within the field underground. All this stuff is either right along that metal pipe or underground. And then ultimately it comes to a collection spot, the project substation. And in some instances, you have to transfer the project on a transmission line a little ways, but in the instance of the San Rafael project, it's literally just throwing it over the fence. The last piece of this type of project is that there is an energy storage system. Those look like shipping containers. The shipping containers in the systems that we use are a series of lithium iron phosphate batteries that are sitting on a cooling plate, and that cooling plate is the main climate control system within the enclosure. For the San Rafael Energy Park, this project was identified here centrally because of the San Rafael substation that's owned by APCO. It's kind of the main reason why this project was born. And right here on kind of the southeast part of the city, there is a 230 system that comes and terminates right here into this substation. From this substation, there's a series of 69 kV lines that kind of spread out through the city. APCO has completed all of its technical studies, and we are in the final stages of working with them to sign what's called an interconnection agreement, which gives us the right to put our electrons onto their system. And so that's kind of the central agreement that is needed for us to technically put this power onto the system. And it's very important, going forward, that without that, we're not allowed to actually operate our project and put it onto the system. So it's a very key milestone for this project to move forward. Kind of pending approval of the site plan, kind of pending discussions with you all. I think we would hope to start construction in 2027 and have the project operational by 2028. It's about a 12 to 18 month construction period. When we think of the design of this project, it would look, that area would be, the majority of it would be solar panels, and the only place where there would be the high voltage system and the energy storage would be either immediately south of the San Rafael substation or east, where all of that big infrastructure already exists. Now, often there's a lot of questions about energy storage. I think that would be kind of an extensive conversation that we would expect to have with the city, the fire chief, and everyone else here within the city as an introduction to these types of systems. Our design right now is a lithium iron phosphate. It's the most recent technology. It's been started being deployed since 2021. In total, there's about 4,000 to 5,000 of these systems operating in the United States. There's only been 2 fires out of that whole population. I don't have the exact details on exactly what happened on those 2 events, but the concern with these projects always has to do with fire. There is a thermal propagation system that's designed into them to allow the heat to be pushed upward out of the system. And in order for it to get its UL listing, it has to go through a certification code UL 9540. They literally put a bunch of these containers next to each other, and they force a thermal runaway, and they test whether there's any propagation of that fire from unit to unit, which there is not. But certainly, I think this is an important point for us to work on collectively with you as you know, the city, to make sure that you understand what the technology is. Just by way of background, we've got about like a 25 or 30 page response document that we've provided the city of Wilcox, because it's the city of Wilcox that will be responding to the Winchester Energy Facility in case of an emergency. Lastly, these projects, this project in particular will have a handful of FTEs that come and go on the site, but there's really, for the most part, remotely operated, and kind of the main kind of on-site event that occurs are folks coming in to check on a monthly basis all the various equipment, and then also the vegetation management. So I'll go back up here, and with that, I will open it up to any questions you all might have.
Gaius? Yes, ma'am.
Just a clarification, because I'm not sure if I heard. So Arizona GNP is a not-for-profit, it's a cooperative, and the members are ABCO and, is it SSBC that you said?
Yep. So I know 3 of them. The other 2, I forget. Trico Electric, Silver Springs, Mojave Electric, Graham County Electric, and there's 1 more there. And then APCO also provides power to municipalities all over the western United States.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if I heard SSVC, and there are cooperatives here, so.
Yep.
I feel like, thank you, by the way, for your presentation. I didn't mean to skip that. Whoever drafted the MOU, maybe Matt, and with help, this union keeps paying off between
Yeah, it was a
you and the
collaborative.
county. Because I feel like you addressed a lot of concerns that I've heard from the public already in the MOU, and your presentation answered some questions I had. As far as timeline, I was going to ask about property tax. That was already answered. I do, because it's right up next to the tribute land, which we don't anticipate now any development happening in the near, or even, oh, yeah. But let's say we could develop, what would be compatible next to this substation and the solar panels, and if we were to see any development interest adjacent to it?
I'll address that point right now. I also want to do a little bit of clarification on the property tax. So what's there right now is actually a pretty significant substation, right? And so what we would extend out, in our design would be more of that infrastructure that looks there like let's say that that's a couple of acres, that substation. Our side of the infrastructure that looks like that would also be a couple of acres. The rest of it would be panels that are, I forget exactly what we said in the MOU, but like the actual, when they're flat, they're 5 feet off of the ground, depending on kind of the topography. And so when we approach a community that's adjacent to our projects, like we actually did on the most recent phase of the Winchester facility, we have a open and honest conversation with them about what we're doing. And, you know, some people don't like it because there used to be a big open meadow there and now there's not. Some people like the fact that there's not going to be another housing development next to them. There's a whole wide range of reactions to our projects once you kind of get past, hey, this is something new, because that's the hardest part of, you know, that conversation. Other places we've seen, if like, I'm not quite sure what the Tribute master plan had, but you could see, you know, a long linear park next to our fence. There's kind of a variety of ways that you could approach that. I think the vision that the city manager had is actually what we hear repeated a lot within Arizona, which is that this land that's owned by ASLD, it's kind of like a time machine to get it from where it is right now and produce a lot more revenue for the state to where they can sell it for housing in the future. And if you look at what's happening in the Phoenix area, that's exactly what has occurred.
Okay. And then the tax, yeah.
Mayor McCaw, Vice Mayor Flowers, Matt, could you address maybe what the MOU does in terms of buffering for the development, which could safeguard, you know, potential residential
Sure.
next door?
There's a stipulation that the developer needs to provide a visual impact assessment so we can see what the appropriate setbacks are for the improvements on the property. And so there'll be a negotiation as we move through the site plan stage, is to make sure compatibility is achieved with their design and layout of the project.
Yeah. I appreciate that you thought to put that in there ahead of time, as well as addressing lighting and noise pollution, maybe it's called, and environmental issues. So that's good. But he mentioned the taxes, and what were you going to say about that?
Clarify.
Sure. What I was going to say is that when you look at, if this was private land and it was zoned ranch land or agriculture land, and we came to ask for a conditional use approval, let's say it was in the county, the underlying zoning of that land, the dirt, the real property designation, the taxes raised from that, doesn't fundamentally change with our project. What actually fundamentally changes is that the personal property is much, much, much higher. And so if you were to look at, and I'm not prepared to kind of give you the exact percentages, but if you were just to look at the breakdown of those percentages, it's overwhelmingly on the personal property tax side of things. And so while the ASLD lease factor, we'd be happy to buy this land, right? But I don't know if that's kind of in the long-term vision of what the city is doing, is what you guys want. The ASLD lease factor is probably not the driving revenue component for you all. The driving revenue component for you all is going to be the personal property tax.
So it's not the dirt, it's the equipment.
Right.
Scott, could you touch on the depreciation schedule?
The depreciation schedule is such that, you know, we follow just the depreciation schedule within the state. So over time, it does decrease unless we put new equipment out there. But it's just like any depreciating asset.
Councilman Myers had a.
Well, I was just curious. I thought that if it's a lease and it's all leased equipment, does that actually impact the tax
Value?
assessment?
The state does not lease the equipment. We own the equipment. We
Right.
just lease the real property.
No, but does that make the property tax assessment go up by putting your equipment on our on the property?
I guess my experience.
On leased property.
My experience in kind of various jurisdictions around, and we'd have to do our own tax analysis here within the city, is it doesn't really, there's the real property tax that's assessed on us, but then we have a separate personal property tax that's assessed on us.
Okay.
And whether it's on ASLD land or private land, that personal property tax is independent, and
Okay.
that's
I
a
see what you're
separate bill.
Okay, all right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate the presentation. Obviously, as I went through it, just a bunch of thoughts moving forward, because again, this is just a presentation. It's not, we're not voting on anything, but just my thoughts of looking at this, what concerns may be come up moving forward. And it says the panels are maximum is 14 feet height, right? So if you have a 6-foot wall, that's not gonna do anything. So that would be obviously a concern for some people. We mentioned tribute, and I know it's not in here, but the setbacks, like what would, say for instance, if that ever does happen, Castle and Cook is not moving forward at all with that property right now. Anybody looks like nobody's gonna do anything, but I'm just thinking moving forward, like if we're a neighborhood there, like my backyard view is not gonna be what, based off the setback. That would be something I would definitely think about. And it mentions, I'm glad it mentions obviously the wildlife stuff, because, birds are huge for us down here, bird migrations, or hummingbirds, things like that. So the monitoring is super important to have in there. And then, if this thing were to happen, traffic plan, because this is not, the small thing we did with ALA on BST in 92 was a nightmare for trucks and gravel out in our roads. So that's very important to see visually what that traffic plan would look like, the route they would take, things like that. And then, just back to the houses thing, the reflections. I know there's some mitigations in there to kind of lower that. But again, if your backyard's facing a reflecting mirror, and not sure how valuable that would make the property next to it either. Like, how does that affect property values to surrounding communities that are already there, right? How does that affect them? Because I would never want to do anything that affects someone else that's already there that bought a house with state trust land behind them. And state trust land being what it is, I would love to hear how your process went, because we've never had not many people have had success with getting anything done on state trust land. So it's interesting to see how you solve that puzzle, because a lot of people can't do it. But just when you changing the dirt as well, drainage, monsoon runoff, construction, all that stuff is going to change the surrounding area. And I'm sure all those studies will be done when it comes to soil erosion, things like that. Again, these are just things moving forward that I know will come up, the surrounding areas there. And then the 30-year lease versus the equipment life, right? How long before you mentioned the panels had to be replaced eventually? So if it's a 30-year lease and the panels were to last, I don't know however long these certain panels would last, is it coincide with the end of the lease, or is there a different timeline there? You know what I mean? And then obviously safety is a whole slide for a reason, but you said Wilcox has a fire plan, which is great. That'd be very important for us locally. What's the response going to look like? What's the access going to look like? Do we currently have the capability to combat this lithium iron phosphate? That would be lithium iron phosphate fires. And what would that look like to make sure that we have training, accessibility, and just the capacity to do that? Heaven forbid it ever happens. And then back to the surrounding areas, like what would this do to insurance rate? I don't know what it's done historically to people that live around there. Their property insurance, does it go up, does it go down, based off what's next to them now? And then I guess, you mentioned the real personal property tax was a plus. Obviously, adversely, the aesthetics will go down. So it'd be a trade-off of, hey, we're getting some property tax money, that's great. But it does affect what our community looks like, and that's a big thing for a lot of people, I'm sure. So that's just my thoughts moving forward, the things that hopefully would be addressed.
Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez.
Happy to touch on
Sure.
a couple of those if you want me to.
Oh, go ahead. Sure. Most definitely.
So I'll just try to go down here if I can. The 14-foot threshold in the MOU is really, the MOU, you think of it as like a box, right? Like, hey, here's the opening box that we're going to play in. And often what we think of on that 14-foot is like, if the project is like completely stowed this way for whatever reason, what's the height all the way up here? That's not the standard operating of the project. It's like, what is the actual max height that we can't exceed? And kind of as Matt can attest to, when you think of like the varying, even on a flat piece of property, there's varying topography, right? And so sometimes some part of the project is a little bit higher than other part of the project. So when we think of, hey, we're gonna agree to 14 feet, like that is 14 feet over 1,000 acres. It's like a very important standard for us. It's not all gonna be that high. And it's also kind of like the maximum, right? We'll do the traffic study. I think that's kind of an important thing. These are all things that we're going to be doing as part of the process with you all. I do think that the traffic aspect of this, the construction of this project is really, really important, and kind of getting the right route is probably the single most important aspect that we can do with you all as a city, because it's the thing over a 12-month period that will have impact. And we want to be very proactive about that. So, like for example, we would want to seek your approval to fix potholes in advance if they develop, rather than wait for the complaints to come and have to go through a permitting process and wait a couple weeks to go get approval for that. The state trust point you brought up is an interesting one, because ASLD is notoriously hard to deal with. We were actually the very first company to put a solar project on state land back in like 2016 or something like that. So we have a very, very long history of working with them. Getting to this point where this auction is happening is a 2-year process, right? Getting through the technical study to get to this point is a 3-year process. And so this project has been slowly trying to figure out if it's been feasible for about 3 years, right? And it's not until right now that we've come to present to you, because there's no way that I'm going to stand up in front of you and say, oh yeah, in like 2 years, maybe we'll get the results back from this study and it could be favorable. So it takes a very, very long time to get through the state land process. In that process, you do an archaeological review, you do a hydrology review. It is a federal requirement that all of the stormwater that falls on this site after the project is built does not increase when it leaves the site. So that's like actually a federal stormwater requirement that we need to adhere to prevent your exact concern of water kind of flowing off of the site. If you go out to this property, what you'll see is that there are a significant number of mesquite trees all over the property. Those we will take down within our fence line, but it actually creates a very significant natural barrier to the neighbors to the east, which will be a 1/4 mile away, and then also anything that we do, in the future for Tribute. The project equipment, the modules themselves have a 25-year production guarantee from the manufacturers. Getting to that 30-year is very, very reasonable. We think that these last probably closer to 35 years is actually the useful life that we often see. If a fire occurs with a storage facility, the manufacturer, like Tesla or whoever else that we might use, the recommendation is actually just to let it burn. And the dispatch by the fire department is just to make sure that it doesn't propagate to any of the surrounding area. And that's actually really what is recommended. The last point, I think, is you brought about taxes and the personal property tax versus other decreased property values. I guess my thought on that one is that if we do move forward with this project, we would be generating property taxes for the city in 2028. The future property taxes of Tribute could happen in 2030 or 2035 or sometime in the future, right? And so there is kind of this trade-off of like, hey, what might happen with those property values? But I guess my thought on the spot here is to say, well, we're bringing something that would happen. The probability of this happening is much higher than the probability of Tribute happening.
Okay. Appreciate it. I mean, I appreciate all these answers. I mean, I understand the let it burn. aspect, but obviously there's so much more to that when it comes to off-gassing, environmental factors that would be considered.
100%, which is why I think like this is the very opening part of this conversation with you all, right?
Cool. All right. Sir?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, 2 questions. Why do we have storage? Actually, can you confirm basically what this is just putting power onto the grid? Just like any other power plant, coal, nuclear, or whatever, you're just putting power on the grid, correct?
Yes, sir.
What's the purpose of the storage? We didn't talk about that. So actually, let me clarify. My question is, does it, so one of the drawbacks to solar power is it only provides power during the day. Does this alleviate that spike and provide more of a level flow of power throughout the day?
So right now, solar, I think like, I don't think this is really controversial anymore. Solar energy is the cheapest form of energy that we can produce. Its greatest detriment is that it's intermittent, right? We've created the design so that it looks like a tabletop in its production, but when we're producing the most power, everyone around here is not consuming the most power. And so what the utility really wants to do is store that on a 4-hour block and basically shift it out to the afternoon. And that is particularly valuable to them, especially because California has a ton of solar power that it's sending to Arizona, and often that power is negative. So the California utilities pay the Arizona utilities to take that power. What APCO wants to do is to take the zero cost energy and then store the energy from this project to dispatch it later. And that's kind of the true value of that storage.
Okay, and the other part of that question is, this is going to delay, or actually, this is part of the overall energy, I don't know what it's called, energy production that Arizona is going through right now, correct?
Yes, sir.
It's just one of the many sources of power that we're currently building into the infrastructure, correct?
That's right. I think that if you were to look at like all the utilities, what they're trying to do is that they've brought a lot of renewables onto the system. They want to bring a bunch of natural gas here between now and 2035, and they want to complement all that natural gas with solar and storage. And the combination of solar, storage, and gas really looks like the energy mix in Arizona going forward, and they're going to retire out, which is now expensive coal facilities.
So the bottom line, this is a renewable energy that doesn't have a spike during the day and provides consistent energy onto the grid, correct?
That's correct. And I think the other aspect of it is that when we enter into a contract to sell that power, we lock in a 20-year fixed rate. The utilities really like that because it's a downward pressure on their rate structure. They've got a bunch of variable things in there, like the cost of natural gas, the cost of building new transmission, all of that stuff. But every time they lock in a price at 20 years, they've basically locked in kind of a lower average rate for the consumers.
And this does not include any additional transmission lines, since you are throwing it right over the fence to that, to the.
That's right. It uses the existing infrastructure.
Right.
Right. That's kind of the main thing, right? If we were to be 10 miles out of town, what probably would end up happening is that we would either have to cut that line and build a brand new substation or build a line back to this point.
Thanks. And then one last question. Matt, during all this process, do we typically have public hearings planned? So when, after people hear about this meeting, heads explode, we can talk to the public and clarify exactly what's happening?
And again, site plans are approved at administrative level that end with a DRC vote. The DRC does have a representative from the Planning and Zoning Commission on it. So this is a by right use permission,
Right.
alternative energy systems. What we're proposing here is those safeguards that protect the public interest through the form of developer stipulated conditions that have been ironed out through their negotiations with county staff over the many projects that they've performed in Cochise County.
Thanks, Matt.
And Mr. Mayor, Councilman Kilmurray, as we hammer through the MOU, which is going to contain all these provisions that we're talking about, we can certainly bring that back to you at a work session if need be, so.
Guess I'm not concerned about us. I'm concerned about when people hear about these things,
Well, that would be an opportunity
public
to
energy
make it
rises
public.
and.
That would be an opportunity to talk about it publicly.
More questions from the dais? Ma'am.
Yeah, Mr. Leach, I appreciate you coming here and giving this presentation. It's an excellent presentation, very informative. And it's always really nice when you can answer so many questions and provide so much information. So thank you so much for that.
I appreciate that. And one thing that I think I failed to mention, which I think is important, is that we're both kind of the developer of this project and we're also the long-term owner of the project, which you don't really always have kind of in this situation. So, Matt's got my cell phone today and also in 5 years.
And just because there's no public input, and what I've heard from the public is all addressed in the MOU and in this meeting, so I just really want to, it addresses environmental considerations ahead of site plan approval. It addresses decommissioning protocol, the process that all of this will be, all of that property we're talking about adding, it will be removed when the decommissioning process happens. Noise concerns, lighting concerns, and there's going to be a site review or like
Operational plan.
yes, thank you. And I like that you'll have to take into the applicant Torch will have to coordinate with Fort Huachuca. This is something we have to do too, and that making sure that any potential impacts are evaluated before it has anything to do with military operations, and that we will receive written documentation of that coordination process on that, and any determinations and coordination you have with the FAA. And it doesn't say that you would have to supply us documentation. Where required, the applicant shall submit a glare analysis evaluating potential impacts to aviation operations in nearby airports. That part doesn't say it needs to be the written document. That's the only one that doesn't mention being documented with the city, but
We're going to want
I
to see
appreciate
FAA
that's there.
approval
Yeah.
before
And,
we issue the site plan permit.
Yeah, and we actually have received the FAA approval of that there's no impact. And then with regard to Fort Huachuca, we are coordinating with them on our other project outside of Wilcox. And so it's actually been ongoing dialogue with the Fort for about 4 years.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I feel very comfortable with everything that was presented and all the work that went into it. Thanks, Matt, and Christine McLaughlin. I know that you might have had your brain picked since you went through this already at the county.
She's actually the brainchild behind most of those conditions.
I owe her lots of things. You all do. So yeah, I appreciate all the hard work and the open communication. And since you came in before our code was ready for you, I appreciate that you came up with this idea to work around and make it still happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, so much for the information. Thank you. Look forward to working with you. Thank you, Matt. Our next presentation is from Mr. Dan Valier of the Southeastern Hispanic Chamber of Commerce with support from the Southwestern Association of Buffalo Soldiers and the NAACP. Sir?
Good afternoon, everybody. Esteemed Mayor, council members, city staff. I'm Dan Valle, and I'm here as the point person representing a coalition consisting of our Hispanic Chamber, along with Mr. John Donahue, our Region 2 Marketing Director, President Demetra Warren, and Vice President Charles Hancock of the Southwest Association of Buffalo Soldiers, President Tim Ash of the Greater Huachuca branch of the NAACP, and First Lady Ramona McCaw. Where are you, First Lady? There you are. Okay. All right. They're all here supporting me in case that I get thrown out of the ring, they're going to pick me up and throw me back in.
I got you, baby, I got you.
There you go. By way of background, in this first slide, John Donahue and I attended a Buffalo Soldier ceremony in Nogales in February commemorating the 160th anniversary of the formation of the Buffalo Soldier Cavalry Regiments in the U.S. Army, 4 of which were assigned to Fort Huachuca, and from which Buffalo soldiers were sent to Camp Little in Nogales and Camp Naco in Naco, Arizona. On the way back to Sierra Vista, a thought occurred to John that perhaps it would be a great thing to designate Sierra Vista as America's Buffalo Soldier City, given its long history with Fort Huachuca and Buffalo soldiers assigned there. So today we are here to present this initiative and reasons why it would benefit the city. This next slide, keying on the 160th anniversary of the formation of the Buffalo Soldier Cavalry Regiments in the U.S. Army, we feel the timing is right for this initiative. Also, Fort Huachuca has a distinct honor of having 4 Buffalo Soldier Cavalry Regiments, as shown in the slide, in garrison there. These factors, plus the city of Sierra Vista having annexed Fort Huachuca in 1971, makes Fort Huachuca part of the city, and therefore they have enjoyed a great partnership over the years. So here are the reasons why we feel that the designation of America's Buffalo Soldier City would be fitting, very fitting for Sierra Vista. Also, we're very concerned that should the Fort Huachuca Museum be closed, we would forever lose all of the Buffalo Soldier historic pictures and artifacts housed there. And so we would like to propose that these be relocated to the Henry Hauser Museum, or an entirely new Buffalo Soldier Museum could possibly be built with USDA grant funding under the Code of Federal Regulations, CFR Title VII, as they have funds available for rural communities to build community facilities such as museums and community centers, among other things. We are exploring this possibility, but also working with Congressman Cisco Manny, who is very eager to put forth new projects. There would be another possible source to fund something like this. The tourist value. I want to preface this slide by saying that before 9/11, access to Fort Huachuca was relatively easy, and when I worked there, I would see many tour buses full of people enjoying and visiting the Fort Huachuca museums. Sadly, after 9/11, all this disappeared, and it became very hard for tourists to visit the museums there, and so attendance at the museums dropped drastically. But if Sierra Vista were to be designated as America's Buffalo Soldier City, we believe we could bring back all those tourists that love the Wild West and its historical education, so we could create a Buffalo Soldier attraction that could feed off of Tombstone's tourists and display true Western history. This potentially could lead to higher tourist dollars for the city of Sierra Vista and Cochise County, benefiting restaurants, hotels, and other businesses here. So here on this slide are the things that the city could offer if we did something like that. Historical depth with national and international appeal, African American heritage tourism, 12% of the U.S. population, tap into the true Western history of the Wild West of Fort Huachuca, founded in 1877, Tombstone, founded in 1879, Bisbee, founded in 1880, Benson, founded in 1880 as well. So talking about economic benefits, as the city of Nogales did in February with their Buffalo Soldier ceremony that attracted people as far away as Phoenix, we could have an initial event followed by others honoring Buffalo Soldiers that could draw many attendees from the state, nationally, or even internationally. So you can see there, higher spending, heritage tourism, long weekends, travel and organized groups, big spenders on hotels, restaurants, retail, potential grant and federal funding leverage. Building the Buffalo Soldier brand. These bullets show how we could build the Buffalo Soldier brand. Also, there are many other Buffalo Soldier associations that we could partner with and draw from to advertise our initiative and future events. These include Buffalo Soldiers 9th and 10th Horse Cavalry National Association, our very own Southwest Association of Buffalo Soldiers, SWABs, Buffalo Soldiers Heritage Association, Buffalo Soldiers of America, Buffalo Soldiers Association at West Point, which I was surprised to see, but that's a good thing. In summary, we strongly encourage and recommend that the mayor and city council puts forth a proclamation designating the city of Sierra Vista as America's Buffalo Soldier City. In your packets, we have included the proposed proclamation for your consideration, along with a letter of support from Mr. Rob Elias, our president and CEO of the Southern Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Are there any questions?
Dice, any questions, comments?
Just comments.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I appreciate this. This is amazing. Obviously, Buffalo Soldiers are huge. We are the true home of the Buffalo Soldiers. I say it all the time. And, you know, I still don't know why General Legere moved that statue from the front. But I know that's still frustrating because now it's in the part of Fort Huachuca that nobody ever goes. So, and I know there was some talk before from Colonel Childs about possibly moving moving the building to the front of the area of Fort Huachuca to be a visitor center. You know, the Black Officers Club, there was talk about that before. I don't know whatever happened to that or where that's at, but it'd be interesting to get an update on that part to kind of move in with this. Obviously, you know, we all know Buffalo Soldiers were all over the U.S., but they weren't welcome everywhere. They dealt with a lot of stuff. But as you mentioned in Nogales, we went to that ceremony in Nogales, and it was great to hear the history there and how they were so welcome in that community and a big part of that community.
That's right.
As well as much here in Southern Arizona. So, and obviously they did their great things overseas and things like that. Battle of San Juan Hill, it was not the Rough Riders and Roosevelt as been written about. So things like that definitely need to be brought to the forefront. And I think this is another initiative that will do that, really tell the true history, good, bad, and ugly, like we've heard before. It needs to be told, and you know, whatever the city can do to support this. I really like everything that's presented here. Obviously, a lot of good points that I think we all agreed on for a long time. So I do like the push of, you know, the naming, things like that. I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you. We also thought about stealing Emmett from up on Fort Huachuca and relocating it.
That's what I'm saying.
The city
yeah.
park, yeah.
I would,
But,
yeah.
you know, because again, it used to be great when a lot of people could go to Fort Huachuca. There's
Yeah.
no more traffic up there.
Yeah, it sits at Woodside Hall, and I don't even think there's anybody inside Woodside Hall right now in Fort Huachuca. I think it's still, I mean, it's called Buffalo Soldier Plaza, but it's just not in a really good spot where people can really access it.
Right.
And if you know, and it's hidden behind a roundabout, you know, it's not a good place. So
Yeah.
we much more would pay tribute to the Buffalo Soldier by moving that soldier back out somewhere.
Yeah.
So where everybody can see it.
Well, the biggest concern we have is that all those artifacts, if they go to Washington D.C., they'll go in the black hole. We'll never see them again.
Agreed. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it
Yeah.
frustrates me to hear about the possibility of the museums closing and things like that and not being funded. You know, it frustrates me for so many reasons. When you look at what that actual cost really is versus how much things are spent by right now. But anyway, I appreciate it.
So we stand ready to assist and partner with you in any way to move this initiative forward. Thank you very much.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Dan, and everyone, actually, not just Dan. I know everyone was working on this with you, and I don't see why we couldn't issue a proclamation stating America's Buffalo. I agree with that because we are home of the Buffalo Soldier. When,
Absolutely.
Like Councilmember Rodriguez said, when we go and visit other cities and towns, we always introduce ourselves. You know, when we're in that military affairs commission meeting or something like that, because we're very proud of it. And as far as the potential museum, like saving those things and putting them in the Henry Hauser Museum, I'm sure that's something that we're very interested in doing. I don't know what the future of the Henry Hauser Museum is right now and what kind of space they're going to have. It could be a lot more. I don't know, hopefully. But that I for sure think that's something that we would all be supportive of. But I'm just speaking for myself. I think it's
Okay.
important to all of us that we preserve those things.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan,
Sure.
so
Thank you.
much. Appreciated our talks months and months and months ago about this
Yeah.
and how it proceed on.
That's right.
We have no problem issuing a proclamation.
That'd be
and
cool.
How to push this forward with. I know Congressman Kasiskman is all in for it.
Right.
Probably can reach out to the senators as well.
Yeah.
See if they'll get on board with the initiative.
Can help with funding, possibly.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Anyone else from the dais?
Mayor?
Sir.
Dan, do you guys have any plans that would, perhaps put some sort of signage at the front of the city that goes along with the proclamation? Something more visible that would go along with
We
this?
were thinking of an event that would promote that.
Yeah.
We do kind of a ribbon cutting maybe for that. Draw people in and draw attention to it, absolutely.
So nothing specific, no monuments, no statues, no visual references to us as a Buffalo Soldier City are in the works right now? That would be something in the future?
Right? I mean, I think, again, if we organize and work together here, we can come up with something and do some planning. I think that would be very, very productive.
Great, thanks.
We do have that one Buffalo Soldier Trail sign that I've asked about before. I still don't know where it actually came from, but there's only one of them.
Where is it?
It's if you leave out Fort Huachuca and make a left, it's right there. Well, obviously we have Buffalo Soldier Trail, but there's a sign that says Buffalo Soldier Trail as you're heading north. It's the only one there. I mean, if there were more, obviously more to, north and south, I think, is that kind of what you're saying? Like, as you come into our city, like you have Purple Heart City, hey, Purple
Sierra
Heart.
Vista, home of the Buffalo Soldiers.
Right.
We're home of the Hummingbirds already.
Well, we could have a sign also as you enter Sierra Vista saying America's Buffalo Soldier City, so.
Well, we can still be the hummingbird capital and the home of the Buffalo Soldiers.
Sure. Yeah, we're definitely both.
Sorry, Major, you had a comment?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Sir.
To further highlight this a little better, we talked, okay, I met an authentic World War II Buffalo soldier back in February when I was out in California. His name was Andrew Pollard. He was actually stationed here and trained here at Fort Huachuca to deploy for Lucca, Italy. So I'm bringing him here in July for Buffalo Soldier Days in July. So we talked to the mayor about, something that the city could do to support this initiative. So
Put it all
more,
together. Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Charles.
Can be the kickoff.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for NAACP and the Southwest Area Buffalo Southwest Association of Buffalo Soldiers, Madam President. Warren
This isn't
Kissett.
something that we vote on Thursday. They'll come back around and we'll vote on it later.
This is. I
don't even think
I
it's
don't
a
think we're going to vote on this.
Oh, we don't?
No, sir. Yeah, no, we don't need to vote on the proclamation. So our next presentation, will budget. Woo. Hey, Jen. Capital, personnel, and O&M.
Sorry, I tried to steal the agenda earlier. So today we're going to review the progress we've made with the O&M, the capital, and the personnel. We're still really early in the process, so you're going to see the charts and lists as they progress towards the end of towards the adoption. So we're going to start with the FY27 budget projections in the general fund, and then the FY26-27 O&M total number comparisons, the 27 personnel requests, and the total number comparison towards FY26, and then review of the FY27 capital projects by fund. Facilities maintenance is included with the capital list this year. And then last, we'll go over the FY27 vehicle list. So the first slide is an overview of just the general fund. This is using a heavily estimated personnel projection and old allocations and O&M requests that are so far. So as you can see, we're not too far at this time, even with heavily estimated projections. Any questions on general fund so far?
Jen, what's the asterisk for on the 27 personnel requests?
That's because it's using really old allocations. So currently, the difference between the fiscal years for O&M is $1.2 million. These are O&M numbers for all the funds. Keep in mind, there's 21 funds, and they'll definitely change as we work through the special revenue and the enterprise funds. So you'll see a breakdown of the major O&M changes just specifically in the general fund in the first few pages of the tentative budget book. Any questions on O&M? So the big number that jumps out on this slide is that $2.9 million. So the FY27 personnel number, as I said before, is very heavily estimated. And don't worry, I'm still double checking all of the formulas on the spreadsheet because you know how Excel is. And don't worry, they're triple checked before they're entered into Munis. So this does include the 2% step increase for all employees and all the proposed reclassifications that are in this presentation. So we've already identified some reductions since this presentation was given to you on Friday, and we're still going to go through and continue to find more reductions. What this does not include is the health insurance subsidy increase, and I'm going to turn it over to the CFO to explain that for you.
Mayor, members of council, I know in the previous work session, the city manager discussed the challenges that are going with our health and accident fund and how the consultant recommended originally 50% rate increase, dropped it to a 20%. What we looked at is the city's always tried to hold the employee harmless when an increase like this has happened. In order to hold the employee harmless on a 20% rate increase, the lowest currently paid employee that has family coverage, we'd have to give a 4% across the board raise. Obviously, that is a financial challenge given our situation. So what we did is backed into increasing the subsidy so that that person would still have a little bit of increase in their take-home pay. To increase the health care subsidy for dependent care, which varies from 19.58% for a family or for an individual with a spouse up to 31.24% for a family. To increase that to hold the person harmless would cost the city about $64,000, and it would increase the subsidy to 25.33% for the spouse and to 37% for a family. Obviously, that having the raise is important for long-term, keeping ourselves competitive with other markets, and holding the employee harmless is also very important and has been something done. On the retiree side, for the last 2 years, we've had $2.4 million of our claims have been for retirees. For anybody that was hired after 2009, when you retire, we will pay for you to go to the state, and you'll be on the state's plan. We added this because we limit our downside of any catastrophic items. We'll pay the premium. We're still giving the employee the same thing they've had before. What we're also looking at doing is taking current retirees, and those are coming up to retirement, adding a subsidy to them because the state's plan is now higher for dependent care than the city's plan is. So we would add a contingency to them to offer it to them. We cannot force them to take it, but offer a subsidy to them if they go to the state plan. And if everyone were to take it, about $90,000 of a subsidy. In addition, they would keep the credit that the state gives for retirees. The credit depends on years of service and all sorts of other variables, so it's not the same for every employee. Again, we're still providing the health care, but this would also move the risk from a catastrophic loss or multiple catastrophic losses to the state's plan, which is obviously, with all the retirees of the state, much more able to handle any sort of catastrophic loss than the city is. We do have stop loss for any major single injury, but it's not better for the employee or the retiree to have $1 million claim, but it's better for the health care plan to have $1 million claim than 10 $100,000 claims, because stop loss would kick in. So we're looking at ways to mitigate the cost to the plan, and reduce some of the risk of the plan. But holding the employee harmless and upping the subsidy is the easiest way to try and, make that raise actually mean something to some of the lower level employees this really is important, obviously important to them. Happy to answer any questions on the subsidy or the rates or anything.
What's stop loss mean?
Stop loss is we are reinsured, so if you or Victoria, Chuck, or I were to be have a serious injury, ended up in the ICU for, say, a week or two, that $1.2 million claim, the city would pay the first $150,000 of it, stop loss kicks in, and then pays the rest of the claim. It's
so
basically a
this insurance
reinsurance.
policy that we have.
It's a reinsurance policy that we have.
Underwriter?
Obviously, getting rid of moving the higher dollar claims to the state would also lower that reinsurance, just like when your child turns 25, your auto insurance goes down because the risk goes down. This would move some of the risk that we have off of us and hopefully have a lower stop loss as well.
So the benefit to the employee for moving to state overall is?
There is the benefit, well, that is on an item-by-item basis. Their out-of-pocket may be less for their initial claim, but they may have a higher copay on something else. I've gone through and I've looked at the state's premium plan versus the city's plan. We are better on some things, they're better on other things, and it depends on the medicine you have, it depends on whether it's family coverage and what sort of things they have. There's not one of the two plans is definitely better. It all depends on the individual person, on their situation of which plan may be better for them.
Okay.
Sir, yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this slide here really encapsulates the challenge that we face in balancing this year's budget. Just with a 2% increase without really adding personnel, our gut feeling is these numbers probably aren't right in the system. So Victoria and Jen are working very hard to clean out the system and have already made progress doing that. So these numbers don't reflect what's happening at the moment. Nonetheless, they haven't made that much progress to where we're able to overcome this number, very easily right now. So there's a lot of work to be done on this with regards to the raise and all that. On the health insurance side, as David mentioned, our retirees are the ones that have really hit it hard this year, and that's because we allow people to stay on the city's plan until Medicare age 65. A great benefit and certainly a huge retention tool for us, especially with public safety personnel. So we would never suggest, not having that benefit available. It's just as we get older, me included, you're going to be you're going to be filing more claims, against the system. So. The proposal right now is to grandfather the existing employees, maybe incentivize them to take a look at going to the state's plan. I don't know if they'll do that because it's very convenient to stay on ours once you're retired. But a number of those employees are reaching Medicare age and will start rolling off the system. Regardless of where we would be on the plan, I think it is a good idea long-term to look at, after grandfathering the existing employees, having all new retirees go to the state plan. I think the overall health of our health insurance plan will improve greatly if we go ahead and do that. That way, we're still keeping our commitment to the employees to keep them under health insurance to age 65, but it rolls off of our books and will be, then will not hit us with regards to claims in the future.
So just to clarify, so Chuck, you said moving forward, so current employees be grandfathered, but future ones, the only option would be not to remain with the city's insurance, but to go directly to the state.
Yeah, to go to the state plan where we would help subsidize and pay for that.
Chuck, do you have a ballpark figure for the estimate?
600.
643,000.
So it's a significant number. So that's added on top of the 2.9 you see there. So that gives you kind of a scope of the problem that we're facing in balancing the budget this year. I think we can handle O&M and capital even, but this is a big number. So, but we will get it done.
I'm not nervous yet.
You're not
It's
nervous
okay.
yet?
Yeah, we're good.
He's got a ways to do it.
Okay.
We still got a lot of time to go. So this slide shows us the new and reclassification requests that have been to list for FY27, starting with city clerk, that's due to class and comp, budget impact of $3,973. Communication and marketing, so PIO is being pulled out of the management analyst job track and pulled separate, which is appropriate for the job duties. I apologize, we did leave out community development. The admin secretary will be reclassed to department specialist due to different responsibilities. Budget impact will be $11,190. Fire and medical services reclassed the admin secretary to department specialist due to job duties. For IT, both of the senior systems administrator moving grades and the CIO moving to a different grade is due to class and comp. For police, the ACO move to the higher grades is due to class and comp. Changing lieutenant from exempt to FLSA non-exempt fits the job market for lieutenants across the board. Reclassing the CALIA administrator is the same thing as PIO. We're pulling it out of the management analyst track and making it its own because it fits the job duties better. For wastewater, creating the 4-tier job track for trainee, worker, and operators 1 and 2, that's more appropriate due to the market and how they function. And then reclassing technician 1, as they were looking at the 4 tracks, they realized they need to reclass that due to class and comp. For transit, department specialist to transit coordinator is due to duties. Airport administrator is the only new position actually added, and that's due to growth at the airport. And then mid-year, we added 2 airport workers, and that's due to growth at the airport because of the fire seasons.
Are those part-time or full-time?
These are full-time.
These are full-time?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you asking if it's seasonal? Because she said it was fire season.
Yeah, fire season. Yeah,
It's been longer as time goes on. The fire season has grown longer, and then there's other duties also.
Okay,
Sharon
got
just
it.
said, you're
You're right. Got it.
Any questions on this slide? Yes, sir.
Jen, for each one of the reclassifications to existing duties, is this basically because in each one of those spots we've been adding responsibility to those positions and they currently don't classify properly?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, let me explain this one a little more because we have 2 things going on here. So one of the things that happens that is on this slide is HR takes a set of positions every year and goes out and compares it to the rest of the market. And so that's also a reclassification. If we look at the jobs that were in that group, and typically we try to take 1/3 of all positions and do them each year. So every 3 years we get through all the city's positions. And so if that benchmarking goes out and shows that, hey, most city clerks are at a higher level, then we have to look at where ours needs to fall. And the same thing with things like the senior systems administrators or the animal control officers. It's comparing where our people who do these duties match to the market in similar cities. There's also our departments can request if they have a situation like we had in both fire, medical services, and community development where an administrative secretary's job has grown over the years and we go, hey, we think this person's working outside of their job duties. HR can take that and go, where does this make sense to fit in? And in those 2 cases, both of those positions were working more at a department specialist level. And so they would get moved to a department specialist level or a higher level because their job duties did expand in that situation.
Is the reason the job duties are expanding is because they become more experienced in the role and they can simply do more, or is there more work actually being done, because we don't have any growth in the city, and we don't have any growth in scope other than probably the fire department.
It's a little of both, and I would say it's situation dependent. And I mean, what the situation is in community development may not necessarily be the same as in fire, but the same situation exists for different reasons.
Because each one of these positions are getting step increases year over year up to 20, correct? So,
Correct.
so they're getting paid, they're getting longevity leave that accounts for the increased experience. And as they get each step increase, I would expect that they're also, corresponding increase in responsibility that goes with those step increases. So why change the job description?
The step increases are more longevity. It's not an increase in duties.
But it's
It's increase in
recognizing the increase
experience.
in value for their experience, right?
Sure.
Yeah, there are other things that factor into this as well. How can I say this? There are years, and there have been years in the past, where we haven't even been able to do step increases. We had like an 8-year drought, in the last decade where we couldn't even do that. So it's not guaranteed that anybody will get a step increase, and it's certainly not guaranteed this year either, based on how the numbers are looking right now. So we could be facing that situation even as we speak. The other is, for a lot of these positions, a career path is important to these people. So if you're an administrative secretary, you have to look forward to being an administrative secretary for 20 years, or is there a way to move forward and progress in your career, and where you would be more apt to want to stay with the city? So that factors in as well.
For minimum wage employees, they don't get steps. They just remain at minimum wage, correct?
For the part-time employees, we still do a 2% increase. They don't have the same class comp plan that full-time does. Some positions do, but we do budget for a 2% increase for them as well.
So they enter at minimum wage. Minimum wage doesn't increase that year. They get 2%, with steps.
Well, they would get both, because the minimum wage has increased every year for the past, I don't know how long. But we do.
Statute, right?
Yeah, that's a state legislature action. So, but then they do get a 2% raise on top of that.
So they don't remain, so we don't have minimum wage coded jobs.
We do.
And the increase in the minimum wage jobs at the lower end of the scale that's mandated to us by the state then causes compression with the jobs up above there, which is a problem that we are dealing with this year. So it would be good for us to be able to at least do the step increase to alleviate some of that compression that's going on at the lower end of the scale because of what's been mandated to us. And if we're not able to do that, then that's going to create even more compression going forward.
Yeah, so that's compression above the minimum wage. But for a minimum wage employee, they're still in the minimum wage job, but the minimum wage plus 2% from the previous, or 2%, or whatever the minimum wage increase is.
Hopefully we'll elevate them above that. Yes.
Okay, so they're only in a minimum wage job for nominally 1 year. Is that correct?
Yeah, until the minimum wage increases the next year.
Right.
And then,
Right.
and then we give them another 2% raise to try and
They're
keep them
remaining at
above
minimum
that.
wage, though.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever the minimum wage happens to be. And then for the city clerk, so are we looking at, for city clerks across the state, for cities of our size and the scope of her job responsibilities, they're typically a management level 1 across other cities, or are we doing that to give a bump to the position because she's topped out at 20?
No, and I don't believe clerk is topped out where she's at. The issue with the city clerk, and we have trouble comparing that position specifically, because many clerks around the state handle elections and ours does not. We contract it out. So we looked at where it was classified and then looked at what made sense given our class and comp plan. And so we bumped it up one level to executive management grade 1.
That's based on the market comparisons.
Are the other directors executive level? What other positions do we have in executive 1?
Chief procurement officer.
Are we good? Are we good?
So this is the FY27 general fund capital list so far. Carryover items will come and go off these lists depending on their status as we move closer to the end of the process. So for ACO fire pump, the existing one is old and leaking and needs to be repaired or replaced, I apologize. If the pump does fail, there is no fire protection at animal control. Cove structural column repair, they found an interior structural column that's exposed to pooling water and rusting. This one is actually supporting a large portion of the ceiling. Library UPS backup is a carryover from FY26. It was put back on because of the increased costs. City Hall HVAC units, it'll be 2 that they're old and need to be replaced. The tire changing machine, the last one is 15 years old, so they're requesting to replace it. If not, then we'll have to go out to private to change the tires. Net clock update, this provides timing for the network, and if the clock is not correct, then it'll mess up the network operations. Network equipment for Rothery Center is a placeholder. Security cameras for Fire Station 3, copy machines for HR and the library. The network switch infrastructure upgrade, that's end of life. Because it is, there's no more hardware and software patches and updates, so that'll leave us exposed to security risks. Sport field bleachers, that's a replacement. The old bleachers, there are some safety hazards. Veterans Memorial Park Sports Complex parking lot, that's going to create more parking around the football field, track, the volleyball, and the tennis courts. The archery range driveway will be to construct an ADA accessible driveway and walkway to the archery range, and then resurface OYCC pickleball courts. Any questions so far on the general fund?
Jane, could you explain carryover? So is carryover of costs from previous years or carryover from funds left over from previous years?
Just the project is carried over. General fund doesn't carry over actual money.
Oh, it doesn't? Okay. So that's just
Cost side.
costs, okay. And then, okay, so you said, so we have a placeholder, 165K for network funding for the Rothery Center. We're getting ahead of ourselves on the Rothery Center on that one, because we haven't had any briefings. We haven't had, I'm kind of looking over at managers, not you, Jen, on that we're already applying money, potential money into the budget for Rothery Center upgrades. We haven't even agreed to purchase it, lease it, or whatever we're going to do with that.
That's true.
So that's very concerning.
Well, we have to plan.
Right, if we don't budget it, then we can't
We
use
gotta
it.
budget it.
That's correct. So at some point, we're going to have a discussion, and the council members are going to look, hey, is that already in the budget? Yeah, that's already in budget because we added it before we even agreed that we were going to do this. And that's why I'm concerned we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Well, if we choose not to use it, we don't have to. We just have to, if we choose to use it, it has to already be in the budget.
Okay,
Give
I
us
mean,
an option.
that's a good, that's fair. I understand that point.
Okay.
And then the sports complex bleachers and Cove structural column repair, those are arguably O&M costs that if we maintain, we already have an overrun, $1 million overrun, potential overrun on O&M costs. Is that why we're pushing those into capital instead of O&M, or?
No, they're capital because they're over $5,000, but I'll let David explain.
Their capital is over $5,000, expected lifespan of more than a year. The example I usually give for capital versus O&M is putting the white roof coating on these roofs is O&M. Capital is to keep the building going. Like when they took this roof down to the rafters and completely rebuilt it, that's capital. This would be a capital expenditure because we need to replace that post to keep the roof from, keep the roof from collapsing. It is a major repair that will extend the life of that building. Without that, I'm going to guess the building inspectors would say it's unsafe and would have to be closed down. So that's what makes it a capital expenditure.
And to be fair, I've heard David have to make that explanation for every new council member ever sat here. Like you don't just know that cutoff.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, so the bridge at the golf course was $10,000. That should have been a capital expenditure then instead of an O&M cost, correct?
It could have been. It's repairing what's there. Yes, it extended the life.
Right.
We could make that a capital cost.
Okay, so it's not a threshold that you have to go to capital at $5,000. We can go to capital.
Well, $5,000, as per the policy, $5,000 in more than 1 year. There are some gray area items that, is it extending the life? Is it a new project?
Right.
Or is it a normal O&M to keep it going? There are certain gray areas on certain projects.
Yeah, and those are typical capital versus O&M distinctions. For policy locally, it's $5,000, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, So any of these, well, they really can't because they're well above the $5,000 threshold. So, and then, yeah, I think that's all I have for that one. Oh, no, I'm sorry, the tire changing machine. So it was $50,000. I'm just going to point out to everybody, we voted to give away a fire truck to Cananella many, many months ago. And so when we're talking about trading costs and saving money, that's a fleet cost that could have been rolled back into buying capital, making capital improvements within our own system. So when we give away money, this is what the cost is. So now next year, we pushed that bill a little bit higher than it really needed to be, and we could have resolved it, or partially resolved it.
I stand by my vote.
Decrease it. Oh, good. I mean, but I'm pointing out what we did has repercussions later when we're looking at these numbers. So that's what I have on this slide. Thanks.
Still stand by my vote. Go ahead, Jen.
Thank you. So for HERF, we have our neighborhood annual street maintenance at 1.5 million. The BST reconstruction phase 1 is a carryover. It's currently in design. Theater Drive from the SVMPO, 1.8 million. The bid documents are being prepped. Julio Cesar phase 1, that's moving into the procurement phase. And then the newest one that's possible is a possible HERF exchange for a shared youth pass, Oakmont to El Camino Real. Yes, ma'am.
Wait, maybe it's on the next list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You thinking the same
No,
thing I'm
it's-
thinking?
Yeah, the one you brought
Yeah.
up to Victoria.
Yeah.
We're still working through this list, yeah. Yes.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yes,
Thank you.
this is just so far, like there will be more projects either taken away or added as we move along.
Okay.
Yeah.
And on this slide, the possible exchange, for that El Camino Real, are we talking about that little path that connects
Yes.
Oakmont?
Yes.
So I happened to look this morning. I've ridden that on skinny tired bikes over 500 times in the last 3 years. It's not great, but I guess I question, not you guys, everybody else. Do we want to spend $350,000 for that little teeny tiny bike path, or can that money be expended? I don't understand where $350,000 would possibly be used for that. I keep looking at you, sorry, Jen.
You're okay.
But is that a correct number? 'Cause that's almost a sidewalk size that's less than 50 meters long.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, first thing to understand is this was an application through the SVMPO, so only certain projects can qualify. It's not wide open funding. The other thing I would note is when this pathway was constructed, it was done so with a minimal budget using asphalt millings. It was what we had available at the time, and it filled the gap. Unfortunately, over the last, it's been over 10 years since it was built in its current state. I will tell you that this is a very, very common source of complaints to the Public Works Department.
Yes.
Part of it is, conflict is unmet expectations, and this doesn't look like other multi-use paths around the city, and it doesn't function like other multi-use paths. The complaints we get are that it is badly degraded. Why is it falling apart that way? And the reality is, it was never constructed to the same standard. It was built with asphalt millings. But complaints on this pathway and raised safety issues on this pathway are very, very common.
Sharon, would you explain what the HERF exchange is, please?
Sure. So HERF Exchange is a program run through the state. Basically, it takes very hard to use pots of money and exchanges with them with the state, and we get funds that are a little bit more easy to use and can be used on things like the pathways. Things we've used HERF Exchange for in the past include the Martin Luther King rebuild. A couple years ago, we had HERF Exchange on the Fry Boulevard, Phase 1, where we narrowed the roadway. So it's been a really good source of funding for us. And we did apply through the SVMPO for this pathway as part of their pathway program, and we were fortunate to get funding for fiscal year 27.
So is there matching funding to that, or is this all out of general funding?
No, this is, I believe HERF Exchange is 90-10. Don't quote me on that exactly, but I believe it's 90-10.
So our share of this is only 10% of that?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So HERF external funding.
That's correct.
Oh, okay. So we're looking at 35K.
Yes.
Am I doing my math right?
Yes.
Yeah, 35K.
Yeah.
Which will save by relieving the federal requirements.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. So I mean, even 35K, you know what, as a user of that bike path all the time, and I ride bikes with people who complain about it all the time. And they are, lest I say whiners. I would encourage, if we need to make cuts, that could be that should be a source.
I'm gonna tell you, I don't know as many cyclists as you, but from the ones I hear from, there's been serious injuries on that path, and we're just lucky that it hasn't cost us money because of that. It's could be considered a liability right now, so I'm happy to see it on the list finally. So it's pretty good.
Let's go take a look at it. I have seen it.
I do want to clarify that there is a difference between general fund money and HERF money and all the special revenue money. So this one is definitely from HERF, not general fund. Any more questions on HERF? Okay. Moving to LTAF, this is for transit. A lot of the projects have been completed in FY26 and removed from the list. So far we have the ongoing B2G Now and the tracker software. The connectivity safety project carried over, and this is they had their pre-construction meeting last week. And then the multi-use path on Highway 90 between 7th and Coronado is in design. So I asterisked here that these are all 80-20 grant funded. 20% is the city match, 80% is FTA, and we're still working through the rest of the transit budget. Any questions on transit? The FY27 sewer capital list. So far, we only have the Riverstone carryover. This is the one where the city partnered with Arizona Land and Water Trust to receive the FY23 REPI Challenge grant for design on behalf of the CCRN. And then the last one is the sewer siphon inspection. This is for inspection and maintenance of the line that receives about 70% of the whole city's sewage, and inspection should be about every 5 to 7 years.
Are we on year 8? Hopefully not.
I think we're on the tail end. Yeah, I think we're on the tail. Any questions on sewer?
Oh, maybe. Do we have to?
Ma'am, hold it for a second. I think we went over. Is that okay?
You're good for
You're good?
till 5:30?
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you. So the refuse list, we have only one item, new dumpsters between 2 yards and 8 yards in sizes. This is to replace the deteriorating old ones, and there is going to be revenue to offset it because we do have them rented out to the public. Any questions on refuse? And as we move through the enterprise funds, we will either add if we can or take away. The FY27 airport capital, as you can see, most of the items on the airport list have corresponding grant money. So we have the spaceport license as a carryover, and the rehabilitation for the pavement main apron, that's also a carryover. I apologize for not itemizing that one out. For the pavement preservation project on runway 1230 and the new connector taxiway between runway and the taxiway, those two projects are kind of in conjunction. So that's to construct a pavement preservation project on runway 1230 and add a new connector taxiway between 1230 and taxiway P.
Oh, sorry, Jen, I just remembered. Congressman Siscomani called us last night and said that the BST request for the 18, well, not the, it wasn't the full amount, 18.9 million. Got through like the first round of those appropriation asks. And so do we have to include that as potential now to make sure if we get it?
Yes and no, depending on when we're actually going to spend those funds.
Oh, should we get it in all
It's going to
together
be
at
several
once?
years, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor Flowers.
Because we had that first?
We
Yes.
may put it in and not budget any match against it until a future year. That's what we've been doing for several projects.
Yeah.
So we'll take a look at it.
Okay.
So we have the NEPA study as a carryover, the airport sewer and communications as a carryover, and then the design as a carryover. Any questions on airport? Yes, sir.
For the most part, the airport funding is self-funded, right, through fees and revenue generated from the airport?
Correct.
And grants.
Yeah, and grants. Yeah, I'm talking about our portion of it.
Correct. AIP funds, and in the case of the airport sewer and communications, we submitted that as a congressional appropriation.
The FY27 grant capital list, we have the AFG grants, that's assistance to the firefighters grants. I believe that's used towards the cancer screening. The SAFER grant, that's staffing for adequate fire and emergency response. That's potentially for 3 positions. The Homeland Security grant is for MDC's reimbursement. The local border support, that is a carryover, it's already been awarded. The highway vehicle grant is from Arizona State Parks and Trails for off-highway vehicles. The light system for emergency vehicles, that's an IGA through the SVMPO. The park improvements is a Legacy Foundation grant. Garden Canyon Linear Park restrooms is a carryover and in design. The Henry Jones Legacy Park Ramada, that's the T-Mobile grant, as we heard earlier. Arbens to Fourplex is the Diamondbacks grant, that is a carryover. Disc golf improvements is a carryover, that would be to add 18 whole course supporting up to 72 people. And then support to tech resources is a carryover. We're still working through the grant list, so more may come.
Jen, are these wholly grants, or are there matching that corresponds to each of these?
Some of them do have a small match. I can get you the list.
Okay.
Some of them are 100%. It kind of depends. Some of them are 100, some 90, some 80, some 50.
Yeah, when we see grants, I think we need to see the matching, so
Sure.
the impact to the city funds.
Sure, I can add that on the next slide also, a city match column.
Thank you.
Any questions on the grant list?
No, ma'am.
Okay. For CDBG, we have the walkway common area for transitional homes, the Better Work Community Connect, the Henry Jones Legacy Park Phase 1, and then the program year 2026 entitlement. Any questions on the CDBG list? Okay.
Actually, Jen, what's the proposed 2026 entitlement mean?
Matt, do you want to take that
Yeah,
one?
that's what we covered earlier in the agenda. So what she's showing there in the list is last year's projects,
Oh, okay.
some of which may carry over, and then plus the just under 250 that will be allocated according to what was shown in your draft.
Got it, thank you.
So the FY27 capital improvements fund for 27 so far. There is one item that was left off, I apologize, is the puppy room for $200,000 as a carryover. Rothery Center long-term lease. Victoria, do you want
Jen,
to
I'm
take
going to
that?
jump in on this one. So this is a good opportunity to give you all an update, and Mr. Kilmary, your request from last work session. This is probably the first time we've put a question mark on a slide for a council presentation too. So where we're currently at, staff and I sat down and met with Ms. Romo and her staff several weeks ago. And at that time, they let us know that the school district was looking at a long-term lease. The reason for a long-term lease versus a purchase is statutorily, the school district can use part of the money from a long-term lease towards operational expenses. If the city were to purchase the property outright, they could only use that money for capital expenses. So we indicated we were willing to consider that and let them know at that time that we were also looking at or needed to do a second appraisal on the property. So that appraisal occurred yesterday. Baker Peterson came down from Tucson to do the appraisal on the Rothery Center. We asked them for a long-term lease cost as well as a purchase cost. At the same time, I had asked the school district to share a draft lease with us so we could start negotiating and start that process. What I had asked for is if we're doing a long-term lease for several considerations such as first right of refusal should the school district decide to sell that property, and then consideration if we did a long-term lease of some amount paid in that lease dedicated towards a future purchase. Once we have a long-term or we have a document is when we can schedule an executive session and sit down with council and discuss whether you want to move forward with this, how it fits in our budget, and so forth. So we're still working towards that. I wish we were a little further along, but the school district has to check some things with their legal, and we're waiting for them to bring us back the draft long-term lease.
So are there any other interested parties in that property? So, for example, schools, charter schools?
Not to my knowledge, although it is our understanding that if the school district were to go out to sell it, by state statute, it would have to be offered to a charter school first, or charter schools, before they could put it on the market for anybody to purchase.
So at this point, we're negotiating against ourselves as the only bidder, so the value of that property is whatever we're willing to pay. Right?
Based on an appraisal. I mean, they need to get an appraisal as well.
Right. But in the end, when it comes down to writing a check, it's whatever we want to pay, or whatever the city is willing to pay for those properties.
We could not offer more than the appraisal, and that wouldn't make any sense to do so, but we could offer less. I don't know if that would be the best idea, though.
So why wouldn't it be the best idea to offer zero and get those properties because the city can't use them, and because there's going to be additional costs? We've identified one, potentially $165,000 for IT. We'd be heating and cooling those buildings. We'd be refurbishing those buildings to make them usable to the city. So there's a whole bunch of additional costs besides that initial, whether it's a lease cost or a purchase cost, right? And those costs are not captured anywhere else on these budget lines. So we haven't seen Rothery Center O&M added to the budget line. Go ahead, Carolyn.
No, you're right. It's just that we also have buildings that we would be vacating that are past their first, second, third lifespans, and then taking those things and putting them in those buildings. And then we wouldn't have to pay a lot more money to replace the buildings they're coming out of, like OICC.
So if we were to tear down OICC, there's a cost to that. That's not free. It's a substantial lot of money. So we're either cooling it, maintaining it, holding it there to do nothing. But it's very complex.
To move them and then tear that down later if that's what we end up doing.
Right. But those are the considerations that are going through my mind every time we talk about the Rothery Center when we're in a period of. Chuck's explained to us very well. We don't have increased revenue. So everything that we do that's new, that's not in an existing budget, is coming from somewhere else within the budget or something that we're not going to be providing the the residents of Sierra Vista. And that's my point going forward, and I appreciate the update from Victoria on what we're looking for on the Rothery Center. My other question is the Roadrunner Park construction, that $3 million is a 50-50 cost share, right?
That's correct.
So for the council, I put it to a poll among the six people on the Parks and Rec Commission. So what do you guys think the priorities are based on what you see around the? And it was a tie between Roadrunner Park and building parking lots at our world-class sports centers. World-class sports centers get tens of thousands, if not more, users, and they actually generate revenue for the city. And we have, I think, $800,000 earmarked for those parking lots. Versus, I understand there's no parks over there, but when you talk about volume and how important those people think it is, those two priorities within the parks, $1 million is a lot of money that can be spent and built a lot of parking lots that do a lot of good for tens of thousands of residents versus the hundreds of residents who will be using Roadrunner Park over the years. So again, we're talking trades, and when we're talking trades with no headroom available to us, I think that's an opportunity for a potential cut moving forward into the.
Cutting Roadrunner Park.
Yeah, exactly. Cutting road. We have a lot of unfinished projects in the city because we do them piecemeal.
That's the life of the. That's what makes this job so important is that
It
there's
is.
a lot of competing interests, and we have to make that decision.
Yeah, and I'm making a case to you guys.
And
Me, I'm the
you're
competing
talking about
interest.
a quality of life issue for those residents on the south side of town.
Yeah, and I'm talking a quality of life issues for tens of thousands of people all across the city who use our sports complexes.
So what I'm saying is, both of them are very important.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I have to say on that. Thanks.
So we have Henry Jones Legacy redevelopment carryover, and then a possible Sierra Vista Golf Course clubhouse renovations that I know is under evaluation. Schneider Electric Sierra Vista Golf Course Phase 3 has a range, low end at 3.5, high at 5.8. Roadrunner Park design is a carryover. We expect the design completion August 2026. Roadrunner Park construction, as we said earlier, is a 50-50 grant. And then Station 4 expansion design, we're waiting for the design proposal. That is a carryover. Any questions on Capital Improvement Fund? Okay. Our last list is going to be for the vehicles for FY27. Public Works did a really good job at narrowing down all the needs for next year. So we're looking at airport. We're adding a 3/4 ton truck with a lift gate. That's for the additional personnel, and they need the lift gate for the heavy equipment. For fire, we're looking at a new ambulance. That's due to the increase in the call volume. The new Chevy Tahoe and the Ford Explorer replacements. The side loader for refuse, that's on the replacement schedule, as is the Chevy Silverado for sewer. Any questions on the vehicle list? Yes, sir.
Probably for Sharon. Sharon, the refuse and the sewer are both self-funded through the enterprise fund, right?
That's correct.
So all those costs.
Those
are
come
really
directly out of
self-funded.
that fund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, presuming we have the fee increase and all that, the other considerations, okay.
We'll most likely finance the refuse vehicle for the 540, so we'll just pay the down payment out of the refuse fund.
Okay. Yeah, so that would be added to another line for the, we'd be pushing it out.
Yes.
For multiple years. And then, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And then the question about the fire engine, I understand completely the need, but have we captured the increased personnel costs? Or is that going to be a future year cost for that one?
For the ambulance?
So for the ambulance, we're buying the ambulance, so that's a purchase this year, and we'll have personnel costs in future years, or would that be a future?
Wouldn't that be a
Mr.
replacement?
Mayor, members of council, so the problem with ambulances is they have a 2 to 3 year lead time on them right now. So this is a future replacement that we just need to get the order in now. We don't pay until the ambulance comes in.
Okay.
So we just need to get the order in because
We
it
don't have
takes
to
so
hire
long.
the firefighters to staff it until future years.
This
either.
is regular replacement. This is not the additional ambulance for.
The way Jen,
Oh.
sorry, Jen, I'm not, the way she explained it when she said increased call volume, it does sound like it's an additional vehicle. not a
Yes, well, it says
replacement.
NA removed from inventory, so I thought this was the additional fire truck, or the ambulance is not.
It could be on the replacement schedule. I'll double check.
Okay, yeah, okay. So this is a replacement, so we do have something removed from inventory at some point.
That was my understanding, but we'll verify. If this is an ambulance for future expansion, then we'll have to hold off until we know that we're expanding.
Okay, so is that, okay, so I thought we did have an ambulance for future expansion in the budget somewhere. Is that in the budget or is that not in the budget?
This
We-
is the only vehicles in the budget so far.
It is.
We had a fire truck for future Station 4 expansion, but it's not in the budget.
Fire truck, but not an ambulance.
Correct. And we do have 2 fire trucks in the current year budget that are being delivered. One has already been delivered and one will be delivered in July.
Yeah.
Those are
That's
entirely
what I was gonna
separate.
ask.
Those, I understand those.
Okay.
And those fire truck, the excess fire trucks goes into reserve.
Right.
All right, okay, got it.
Any further questions on the vehicles? So our next steps in the process is the department budget meetings. We're still going to meet with the departments to fine tune all the numbers. And then balancing the remaining funds, this is where it gets really fun. So you'll have your complete tentative budget book for your Memorial Day weekend. I know you guys take it everywhere you go, especially when you go hiking. So upcoming budget meetings, you will have your first work session in May, you'll have your general fund balanced, and then all the rest of the funds balanced at the end of May. And I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Oh, ma'am, thank you so much.
Thank you so
Jen.
much.
All right, our next item of discussion is the call to the public policy. Councilman
Hey,
Rodriguez.
thanks. Thank you, Jill, for putting that together. It looks good. I mean, I'm sure you all look over it. It's definitely an upgrade to what we had before. It's changing with the times. The only thing it doesn't have is a box, and this is a question probably for you, Mayor, is how do you feel like if we have the need to stack the stacks of pro versus cons so you can give people equal time, because it doesn't really break it out right now in that fashion? I don't know if you think if that's necessary or not. If not, we can just leave it the way it is and move forward.
Can we judge it by the content that's on
Yeah,
the floor at the time?
I mean, it's just one of the things where, if you have, let's just say we have 100 people in here and we want to know if they're pro or con. If you have 80 that are pro and 20 that are con, to keep it even, look, hey, there's a stack that we have pro, con, we get it, but to give everybody equal time, we gotta do some math here, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Mark, I thought they left it out on purpose because that disparity says something. So when I have 8 or 20 people versus 5 people speaking, that gives an impression to us and makes us think differently. So I think it's important to let it be and whatever comes, because we don't need to be fair, or we need to be fair all the time, but we don't need to be even-handed across the pros and cons when there may be more force with the pros versus the cons.
I agree. I'm just saying, if more of a so we have an understanding, like, hey, these people are here to talk on this. So you give the mayor an option to know, all right, how much time we have to work with in a meeting, first of all, and then 2, okay, so we have this many pros, this many cons. We wouldn't know until we let everybody speak and kind of just check. I mean, that's.
I have a couple thoughts about that.
Sure.
One of my first thoughts was going through this is due to a large number of requests to speak, we may limit it to 3 minutes. I feel like there should be a specific number that we should put in there. That way, let's say we have 15 people, 1 week we have 12 the next. and then we decide, you know, whatever week, 3 minutes, and the other week it's 5. I don't want people to think that's unfair. So I feel like putting a specific, like more than 15 or something like that. And then as far as the, as what you guys were just talking about, I feel like it should be first come, first serve, I guess, for something like that. So the first person that turns in theirs, and then so like if somebody comes in like when the meeting's halfway over, then their request would be you know, at the bottom of the pile, because it's whoever comes in and fills the request out.
That's a
Just
good idea.
in that order, I feel like that's probably the fairest thing to do. So those are just a couple of thoughts
And
that
we
I
create a
have.
stopping point at the end, right?
Yeah, like that way, you know, I was here, like somebody's like, you know, I was here first and I want to talk on this subject. How come you didn't hear me? I wasn't number 16, I was number 1. So something like that, I feel like that would really kind of clear up any thoughts of unfairness.
So we would go into it with a specific time limit to the end of the station, then if you didn't get your turn, you didn't get your turn, right, after 5
I don't
minutes?
think she's saying.
Well,
I don't
no,
think
it's,
she said
it's, if there's, let's say there's 10 people, everybody gets 5 minutes. If there's
So there's a
15
threshold, put a
people-
threshold on, like a
Yeah, if
no-show.
there's 15 people, more than 15 people, then it would be 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
But
Oh, I
we
see.
would
Gauge
go
it.
in the order that people fill out their request. So that way there's fairness in people being heard in the order that they fill out the form, but then also at the same time, we know, you know, do you have 5 minutes or do you have 3 minutes?
So for clarity, should we
Some
put it
sort
on
of,
here?
yeah, clarification.
So, it sounds like what I'm hearing she's saying is she wants to put her thought is to put a threshold, like.
Yeah,
if
threshold
there's,
number.
You know, I mean, I like that idea. The only thing I know that we've have happened before is people show up and like, well, then never mind, I'm not gonna talk then, because
No.
they already did it, so then our numbers get skewed, you know what I mean?
That's
Yeah.
true, but I mean, kind of just so the public knows going forward, you know, like if let's say we have 20 people that show up before the meeting or whatever, and they fill out the form, then we already have that plan, and let's say that 10 people are like, oh, I don't want to talk anymore.
Right.
I mean, I guess we could put something in there that says that, or we can just kind of go, well, we just, you know, we already set this, like, I don't know. That way, there's something that's notated already going forward.
It's first come, first service, right?
Well, just, you know, you listen to people in the order that they fill out their form. I mean, I guess if multiple people are talking about a similar topic, you can put them together. I don't know, that's just some different thoughts I have. I don't know what other people's thoughts are. That's kind of what makes sense to me.
I mean, or maybe just a statement that says like, in the event that the amount of, call to public request would, push the meeting for a certain amount of hours, we may have to reduce to 3 minutes or something like that. Where there's not like a number, like a hard number that says, you know, oh man, don't put your name in, because if you're gonna push us over the number, you know, I don't want people to do that either. Like,
No, that's a good point. That's true.
like
Yeah.
we're at 19, man. Don't be 20, because then we're all gonna be stuck at 3 minutes. You know.
That's true. Yeah.
But if they
That's a
have their
good point.
speech set for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
a
I
good
just
point.
think there should be some it notated somewhere, just so it's not like nobody thinks we're just making it up. You know, we're not just pulling it out of anywhere.
Yeah.
It's an actual policy, and all the reasons why it's kind of mentioned. You know.
That's true. Like, don't be number 20. We're going to beat you afterward. That's a good point. Yeah.
Beat you up?
Yeah. No, like no. No.
I know what you mean. So if you want to suggest to make that change?
I mean, it's up to whatever you.
I really like the way it's written.
I liked it.
I think Jill did this.
Mhm.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
And it is a huge upgrade from what we had. I didn't even know we needed an upgrade until you pointed it out. So
Part of what would concern me about limiting time and limiting numbers is if you have, say, 3 people who want to talk about this, and you've got 12 people who want to talk about this, and these guys get 3 minutes, but these guys get 5 minutes,
right.
then you're accounting for who wants to talk about what and everything. I mean, it's just my suggestion, but I would say this is a start.
Okay.
Let's flesh it out. It's not written in stone. It can be
Definitely.
redone
We
if
can roll
it
with it.
seems to be a problem, but this kind of makes it the mayor's purview as to when it's cut at 3 minutes. So if the mayor says, I've got a whole bunch here, you don't have to give them a number. You can say, I'm in charge, and I feel that a 3-minute limit is appropriate for this meeting. And I think that's a good way to start and see how it works.
And it's worked fine that way, leaving it to the mayor's discretion. So that's why I think this is
let's do it.
And do we just let anybody that wants to talk? I mean, when we had that one working session where everybody showed up, that was one of the ones that I had participated in where we had the most public feedback. But it seemed like most of the people that were doing the talking weren't even citizens.
Which is why I
of-
like
of the
this
city,
little
you know.
yes, no from a citizen.
There were a lot that were
City
from Fort
resident.
Huachuca and Palominas and Huachuca City that were showing up and talking passionately, but they were not even from here.
Right, but we still want to hear from them.
Yeah.
Right.
Could we add a line that priority would go to residents of the city?
I don't want to do that either.
You want to hear from everybody?
I don't want to single anybody out. I mean, because I think we'd agree that they're, I mean, this is my feeling. I don't care where they live. If it's an issue that affects you, right, we want to hear from you. Because where you live in our community, we all use the same roads, the same schools, the same grocery stores, the same parks. So it's going to affect you. Now, whether you can vote in our city or not, you know, that's, I don't want you to. I feel like
Communications is better.
I feel like they don't even have a voice when it comes to their county supervisors anyway. So when it comes to we're like the first people they can actually talk to sometimes. The first people of government that they can actually address in this forum. They don't have to wait months to go to a meeting. You know. So
I mean, I'm convinced. I mean,
Yeah.
more is better in my opinion.
yeah, and I understand what you're saying. Like, hey, you don't you're not a city resident, so but it's still. You know, I don't want to differentiate or shame people. Put like a county stamp on them and say, oh, you guys are county people. No, I don't want to do that.
You wouldn't have never heard the hero song.
Yes, the wind beneath my wings was an out-of-state person. I still,
Yeah, she wasn't from Arizona.
it's still deep in my heart.
All right.
So memorable.
So we'll roll with this.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate the work.
And I will take the policy out of the middle of the form and make it larger, and it will be posted
over
at
there.
both
Okay.
entrances.
Perfect.
Hopefully that'll catch somebody's attention.
Thank you.
Excellent.
I like it.
All right.
Are we done?
No, Foxtrot. A report on recent trips, meetings, and future meetings.
Let's see. Anything? Okay, I still have, I announced this last time, but just for repeating, planning and zoning's having a public hearing, they're not voting, but it's for the, general plan. It's gonna be at the EBC meeting room, 5 PM, Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. To receive comments on the general plan. I didn't say it, but, yeah. And then we'll have our regular planning and zoning meeting in here on May 26th
Got it.
at 5 PM.
All right. All right. Future discussion items and council requests, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor McCaw. The only thing I'm tracking for the next meeting right now is your presentation on your balanced general fund. So that may change, but you could have a shorter work session next time.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. We'll see you on Thursday.